Every once in a while, I review a game that isn't very good upon release, but shows amazing potential and with time could end up being something quite brilliant. It isn't often I will go back to a game to see if it has indeed improved since my initial review, but Cook Serve Delicious 2 is one game that I will. Cook Serve Delicious 2 is a hardcore cooking and restaurant management game that is developed and published by Vertigo Gaming Inc. and it is the sequel to the critically acclaimed Cook Serve Delicious. The game released on Steam September 14th. In my initial review of the game I was very disappointed with how unfinished the game was. Despite the great gameplay, the game was massively let down by the messy user interface of the restaurant designer, the running of your own restaurant was boring, game balance was a major issue for the more difficult levels, and a lot of features that were expected to be there simply weren't. So the burning question is, has it improved in the months that have passed since I first took a look at the game? Well, let's take a look. For those who don't know what Cook Serve Delicious 2 is about, it takes place after the first game. Essentially the building that your restaurant was situated in was sold, along with all the units in it, after the executives of the building were arrested for stealing money. With your restaurant gone, you use all your savings to buy a new unit in the biggest building in the city, called the Tarragon Super Tower. It is here that you must rebuild your reputation and turn your new dump of a restaurant into a 5-star, and your journey to climb back up to the top begins. When it comes to Cook Serve Delicious 2, there isn't really much of a plot. What I've just told is pretty much it. It's a game that focuses more on the gameplay and restaurant management over anything else. So if you're looking for a compelling story of the struggles of a chef attempting to reach celebrity status, then you're not going to find it here. If you're looking for an extremely fast and frantic gameplay, however, you may be just in the right place. The objective of the game is to reach culinary stardom by becoming a 5-star chef, which is done by running your own restaurant or working for other establishments within the tower. First up is your own restaurant. Here you can adjust the menu with any of the recipes that you've unlocked, which are done by leveling up, purchasing them and unlocking them through reward chests as you progress through the game. A feature that has been added since my first review is that now all recipes have specific characteristics that affect your restaurant. For example, some foods you can only keep on the menu for 2 days straight, or you will begin to suffer a buzz decrease. Buzz being your restaurant's reputation. Some recipes are considered all-time classics and customers will never get tired of them. Some are considered trashy, resulting in you having to take out the trash more frequently during a shift, and some attract pests, resulting in you needing to set up more pest traps. Having this feature results in the player having to be tactical when choosing their menu items, as they all affect the entire shift and the buzz of the restaurant in one way or another, and really adds a layer of depth that was previously missing from the game. Along with that, there are also additional modes now available called Classic, Zen, Stress and Standard. The Classic mode takes all recipes into account for the day and all gains and losses take effect. If you do well, your overall restaurant buzz will go up. Perform badly and it will go down, resulting in fewer customers per shift. Standard mode doesn't take recipe effects into account, allowing you to create any sort of menu that you want while not affecting your daily buzz. Zen mode is a relaxed mode that allows you to adjust the amount of holding stations and prep stations, along with how long the customers will wait for their orders, and with the option to turn off rush hours. Finally is stress mode, which ups the buzz levels to 150%, which is the maximum it can go. This results in utter chaos when it comes to the shift, with a maximum number of customers along with little customer patience. It's a mode that you must really plan a flexible menu if you are to succeed. While these new modes don't fix my issue with there being any sense of progression when it comes to building up your restaurant, it does allow you to vary your experience how you see fit. Being able to do this does stop the game becoming as monotonous as it once was, and can make things quite exciting. Finally, you can also have equipment that you can upgrade. These upgrades decrease the number of chores that you receive during a shift, such as washing the dishes and flushing the toilet. It's a small addition, but a welcoming one that makes things slightly easier for you, at a cost of course. When it comes to working with other establishments, you simply choose what restaurant you want to work for and then choose a level. The higher the level, the higher the difficulty, with more complex recipes and higher buzz levels. As you increase in level, you will unlock new restaurants to work for along with more difficult levels. Each restaurant has its own theme and menu that you need to master. Each level offers 3 medals that can be obtained by performing well throughout. A bronze medal is awarded for completing a day with less than 8 average or bad orders. A silver is awarded for completing a day with 4 or less average or bad orders, and a gold medal is awarded for a perfect day with no average or bad orders. You receive reward chests for collecting medals, with gold medals unlocking new recipes for your restaurant, while bronze and silver unlock new decor. Between working for other restaurants and building up your own, there is plenty to do, and moving between the two helps break up the gameplay a little bit. Nothing has really changed in the work for hire side of things, whilst it's great to see that your restaurant has had quite an overhaul. Despite that being the case, there is still a major issue that I initially had with the game, and that is the lack of progression. After playing for about 20 hours or so, you begin to feel that you really haven't progressed all that much, other than unlocking new decor, recipes and restaurants to work in. And once the magic of the gameplay and the novelty of the game begins to wear off, things do quickly begin to become monotonous. I just wish that there was something more to keep me gripped other than simply unlocking more of the same. But with that said, what the game does offer is a vast improvement compared to what it had upon release. Next up is the absolute highlight of Cook Serve Delicious 2, the gameplay. At the start of a day, to begin you must start cooking a dish at one of your holding stations. Food in the holding stations come in two forms, entrees and side dishes. Entrees are the foods that customers order and you must have them ready to be able to serve the dish. Certain recipes can be served from a prep station as well as a holding station, but doing this is time consuming and far more awkward than an organised holding station. Side dishes are sold alongside each dish, but their main purpose is to increase the amount of patience that customers have while waiting for their orders. The more varying side dishes you have made up at any one time, the more time you have to serve customers. Then there are the prep stations where you make the orders as they come in throughout the day. Essentially this works in the same way as cooking at a holding station. The order is displayed at the bottom of the screen telling you what the customer wants. You then have to make the order using the ingredients they asked for. If you get the order wrong, they will be angry and leave, resulting in a bad order for the day, and if you're running your own restaurant in classic mode, a decrease in buzz. Throughout the day you will receive chore tickets, where you will need to flush the toilet, set pest traps and wash dishes as some examples. Failure to complete these will result in customers getting sick, stopping you from achieving a perfect day and giving a major hit to the restaurant's buzz level. As to how many prep stations and holding stations you will need to manage will depend on your menu for your own restaurant, and if you're working for another establishment, it depends on what level you are playing, with the higher levels giving far more stations and customers due to the higher buzz level. When working in your restaurant, you earn money from every dish sold, along with gaining tips for excellent service. When working for a restaurant, you earn money for your shift and earn some tips too. The gameplay is smooth, works really well and is frantic and chaotic fun that brings the intensity that few games can, especially in the more difficult levels and when your buzz is very high. And without a doubt it is Cook Serve Delicious 2's biggest strong point and easily the most polished of the whole game. So much so that barely a thing has changed apart from a bit of balancing here and there. The only issue I do have is with the chillin' bowl levels. These levels revolve around making desserts and ice cream type foods, which results in there being 0 side dishes. The recipes themselves are quite time consuming and have a lot of variation. What you end up with is extremely difficult levels around the midsection of that restaurant's level selection that I think need to be looked at. The only other issue I have with the gameplay is the co-op. Sadly, the issue that I had with this is still to be resolved, which was the fact that the difficulty stays the same in co-op as it is in single player. This results in some very difficult moments in the single player, but it makes co-op far too easy to the point that one player could hold the fort on their own for entire levels while the others do whatever they want. Aside from that, there is little to complain about the gameplay, and it is this that keeps Cook Serve Delicious 2 on its feet, with it having an addictiveness similar to that of Civilization, where you say just one more and it turns into a dozen or more. The restaurant designer was easily the weakest aspect of Cook Serve Delicious 2 in my previous review, and while there have been numerous changes since then and a vast improvement to the UI, what other problems I had still remained. Essentially how the designer works is that you unlock decor items as you progress through the game. This is done by leveling up, obtaining medals and completing objectives in your restaurant. You are awarded chests that work in the same fashion as loot boxes, where when opened you are given a random reward, though you don't have to pay for them. The fact that the rewards are random isn't exciting in the slightest, as all the rewards are decorative items. And what I ended up doing was choosing a restaurant layout that I liked and just sticking with it, making the unlocking of new decor redundant. It just feels like a whole lot of work and little in return. I think what the designer needs is to be implemented into how you run your restaurant, something along the lines of certain decor giving various bonuses, depending on what type of menus you have. There's a lot of work for what is, I believe, to be a one-man team, but if such a mechanic can be added to all the recipes in the game, I'm sure something too could be done for the decor. It would make unlocking new decor a bit more meaningful and give rewards a bit more excitement. Along with that, my issue of the designer space being small is still there, but I feel this is something beyond fixing, as to do so would be a massive overhaul that would probably take a huge amount of time, and no developer has that. At the end of the day, the designer is still the weakest link in Cook Serve Delicious 2's features. It is a massive improvement, but it just doesn't do anything for me other than it being a gimmick and another selling feature for the store page. I hope that maybe something can be done like what I previously suggested to bring the designing of your restaurant into the running of it. Cook Serve Delicious 2 has certainly come a long way since I played it at release several months ago. There is still room for improvement, but now it actually feels like a released game as opposed to something that should be in early access. The gameplay is still the highlight, even if it is still a bit unbalanced in places and is still lacking a change in difficulty between single player and co-op. The running of your own restaurant actually has some meaning now, and the designer received a much needed interface makeover, but sadly the rewards are still feeling anything but rewarding. And let's not forget the addition of the emails that pop up after every day, which to me is a pointless mechanic, but it was also a highly requested return from the first game. In my initial review, I gave Cook Serve Delicious 2 a 4 out of 10, which may seem harsh considering its gameplay, but the reality was, it wasn't a complete nor good game. Its only saving grace was the gameplay. Now, however, is a different story altogether. It really is at a point it should have been at release, and it overall is a much more enjoyable experience. And with that, I give Cook Serve Delicious 2 7 out of 10. It is far from perfect and still a long way from what it could potentially be, but I saw even back in September how good it could be, and that is why I want to return to it. And it's great to see that the developer has taken critics and players' feedback on board and made some drastic but much needed changes. Not to mention having their priorities right when it comes to these changes, and because of all that, it is a game that I can finally recommend. If you love fast-paced, frantic gameplay, cooking or restaurant management games, then you are without a doubt bound to enjoy Cook Serve Delicious 2. But if intense and stressful situations in games aren't for you, then it is certainly a game you might want to pass up on.